Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Orion here on Monday morning, October the 13th. Still dealing with a coastal storm along the Atlantic seaboard. A pretty widespread area of rain this morning across much of the northeastern U.S., parts of the mid-Atlantic region. Really still a double-barrel low-pressure system. It's been quite an interesting coastal storm system here. Really dealing with a couple different important factors. One is the phasing of the upper air lows. It really hasn't taken place completely yet. In fact, later on today into tonight, the phasing of a couple different upper level troughs will finally take place, and that whole system will then wrap out and move east out over the open waters of the western Atlantic. The other interesting feature here is has been kind of a Fujiwara effect that we talked about with a pair of tropical systems earlier this year. There's still two separate surface lows, and they'll tend to kind of rotate around each other over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. All of this makes for a very interesting weather forecast, and whether or not this trend for coastal storms continues into the upcoming winter season remains to be seen. There certainly are those possibilities, and if it's anything like this particular system, they'll make for some interesting and difficult, challenging weather forecasts. Here's the latest radar map across the nation. Again, you have kind of a widespread area this morning of rain out across the northeastern U.S. and much of the mid-Atlantic region, let's say primarily from the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, north and east, though there are some lighter showers across the D.C. metro region. And over the early part of the weekend, we had a storm system that tended to move right along the southeast U.S. coastline to this position. Then kind of took a jog out to sea, and this morning there is basically a one low pressure system right in this area right here, and there still remains kind of a second system right here, and that's the pair of systems that will kind of tend to rotate around each other over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. Certainly has been a persistent onshore flow of air right here. And that has also along the New England coastline and down to the Carolinas. That has produced some significant coastal flooding. It has indeed turned out to be an impactful storm. Places like Long Island, coastal New Jersey, the Delmarva Peninsula, all the way down to the Carolinas. And winds have also gusted into the 50 to 60 mile per hour range along those coastal sections. Far less rainfall in inland locations. Let's say, for example, across the D.C. metro region, not much total rainfall at all. Even the Philly area getting some rain right now, but not certainly by no means an excessive rainfall event for the inland locations. This primarily was confined to the coastal sections. Again, Long Island down to Jersey, Delmarva Peninsula, all the way down to the Carolinas. And this morning, much of the impact that's across the northeast U.S. continues for another day in the mid-Atlantic region. Meanwhile, out west, notice some blues showing up here, and we'll show the snowfall map in a moment here for the next 10 days, but this part of the nation will receive some significant snowfall in those higher elevation locations over the next 5 or 10 days or so. Well, I wanted to take a couple more looks at that coastal storm along the Atlantic seaboard this morning. This is basically the isobar pattern, pressure pattern here at the surface level as we begin the day here on Monday. There's also some radar echoes on this particular map. But notice, again, kind of a relatively strong low here right along the mid-Atlantic coastline, and there's really a secondary low down in this area right here. In other words, these two systems have not consolidated into one strong low, and that is part of the reason why the inland locations really do not receive all that much rainfall from this system or strong winds. Confined to the coastal section, they'll do kind of a rotation around each other over the next 24 to 36 hours or so. But the onshore flow, and look at this right here, this onshore flow of air continues to pound away at coastal sections from New England down across Long Island, New Jersey, even the Delmarva Peninsula continuing to have coastal flooding problems, beach erosion problems, and again, 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts reported along the Jersey coastline as an example. And those very strong wind gusts existed all the way back down the coast to the Carolinas over the past couple of days. And here's the 500 millibar pattern as we begin the day here on Monday. And again, this has kind of one feature up here and a second feature down here, and they'll finally consolidate by later today, tonight, going into the day on Tuesday, and all of that will then push out from west to east out over the open waters of the western Atlantic Ocean. The remainder of the week after today looks much better in places like the Mid-Atlantic region of the Northeast U.S. Basically a nice, comfortably cool week headed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, even into the upcoming weekend. Strong jet stream right now out across the southwestern states, cutting across the northern plains. And look at this deep upper level trough here tucked in along the Oregon coastline. A lot of snowfall over the next several days in these higher elevations of the Rocky Mountains, really extending from the Sierra Nevada mountains of eastern California all the way to the Colorado and Wyoming Rocky Mountains, again over the next 5 or 10 days or so. And here is, in fact, the total forecast, the total snowfall forecast map for the next 10 days using last night's 0Z run of the GFS. And significant snowfall in some of those higher elevation locations. Look at right here, the Sierra Nevada mountain range in eastern California getting pounded here over the next week to 10 days or so. This is showing up on the legend here as a foot or more in some of those higher elevation locations. And again, that'll extend to the Colorado Rockies, all the way into the Rocky Mountain states of Wyoming, western Montana, and all the way into the interior higher elevation locations of Washington and Oregon. A pattern that looks like winter is indeed on its way. A lot of snowfall for some of those higher elevation locations out across the western U.S. Well, let's walk through the surface forecast maps using the 0Z run of the GFS. And again, we have a couple different low pressure areas right now. One off the Mid-Atlantic coastline and kind of a secondary low off the South Carolina, North Carolina coastline, and a strong high to the north. The combination here sending a lot of air from the east to the west, that onshore flow, east to northeast winds pounding away at coastal sections, again from southern New England, across Long Island, coastal New Jersey, down into the Delmarva Peninsula. Kind of a broadening out area of rainfall as well as we begin the day here. Now, let's push forward here, and we'll see these two systems can kind of tend to rotate around each other. Let me back up here. This system moves in this direction. This system tends to retrograde back here. Notice that over the next 12 hours or so. And then they'll finally consolidate when those couple of areas in the upper part of the atmosphere phase together. You'll get one consolidated low by later on tonight going into the day on Tuesday. Notice here, still this persistent onshore flow continuing to produce coastal flooding, beach erosion at times of high tide here for the next 24 hours. We're not done with this system yet by any means here, especially across those coastal sections here. And then finally, during the day on Tuesday, this system pulls on off to the east. We get some improving conditions in the Mid-Atlantic region, certainly by tomorrow afternoon going into tomorrow night. And then we have improvement here for much of the remainder of the week. Now notice this storm system here bringing some significant snowfalls in some of those higher elevations of the Sierra Nevada mountains over the next few days here. This is the forecast map for tomorrow night. Again, this whole area will get some accumulating snow here over the next 5 or 10 days or so. And the Sierra Mountains, Nevada mountains, will get significant snow in the near term here over the next couple of days. Continue to move forward here. Kind of a cool air mass here dominating the Great Lakes and Northeast U.S. by midweek. Actually, a dry cold front will push through the northeastern states Tuesday night into Wednesday, paving the way for cooler conditions on Thursday. Notice the blues out here midday on Wednesday, representing some of the higher elevation locations with some snowfall here. Go out a little bit farther in time, and basically this cool Canadian high dominates the scene out across the Great Lakes, the Middle Atlantic, Northeast U.S. on Thursday, and this low pressure area pulls out into the middle part of the nation. Still some snowfall across some of those Rocky Mountain states, and then we'll go into the end of the work week, and high pressure continues to dominate the eastern third of the nation, and basically a dry pattern for much of the nation. That storm system that first produced some heavy snowfall over the higher elevations in California on Tuesday and Wednesday pulls all the way to the northeast and reaches the south central part of Canada by Friday morning. So still dealing with a coastal storm situation along the Atlantic seaboard, and with plenty of those higher elevation locations out across the western U.S. to see some significant snowfall over the next week to 10 days or so. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Doherty.